Hi, this is Roger Moore, and you're listening to James Bond Radio.
Hello and welcome to James Bond Radio. My name is Tom Sears, and this week I am joined by our other man in LA. I usually refer to John Williams as our man in LA, but we do have another one, and that comes in the shape of Mr. Matt Chernov. Now, he's going to tell me all about his recent trip to Jamaica. It was a press trip for Variety magazine, obviously in the run-up to No Time to Die, when it was going to come out in April. And he toured through a huge amount of classic Bond locations, going all the way back to Doctor No, a little bit of Live and Let Die there in the middle, and of course No Time to Die as well. And he's going to tell us all about that trip very, very shortly. Now, before we talk to Matt, there's a couple of things I need to keep you abreast of. Number one, The Bond Experience is now a podcast as well as a YouTube channel. So make sure you download some of that action. Now, that's a new thing. That's not just like the YouTube channel repackaged as a podcast. This is, unique content specifically for the podcast. So if you want some more Zawritsky in your life, and let's face it, we all do, make sure you subscribe to that wherever podcasts are available. Item number 2 on the agenda, cue the music. Everybody's favorite James Bond band are hosting a James Bond pub quiz every Sunday online for the foreseeable, basically. There is a small entrance fee, but there are also big cash prizes to be had as well. And by entering that, you'll be supporting the band during these trying times that we're currently all embroiled in. On that note, I hope you're doing all right and you're not going too crazy, stuck indoors all day long. Hopefully, this podcast can help ease the tensions for a little bit and, get you through another hour and 20 minutes before you're looking for the next thing to fill a gap. But yeah, I think you'll enjoy today's episode. Matt is a cool dude and he's got some wicked stories from Jamaica. So I hope you enjoy them as much as I did talking to him. So without any further ado then, let's talk to our other man in LA, Mr. Matt Chernov.
Who are you?
My name's Bond. James Bond.
Bond.
James.
Bond, what do you think you're doing?
Keeping the British end up, sir.
Welcome to James Bond Radio. News, reviews, and discussion of all things 007.
Lucy.
As you can see, I have no problem with female authority.
Oh, pipe down 007.
Do you expect me to talk?
No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to lie.
Matthew Chernov, welcome to James Bond Radio.
Glad to be here.
Now, we've invited you onto the show today, Matthew, because I got wind that you took a little trip in recent months, back before the world ended, and No Time to Die was on schedule for an April release and all the rest of it, and all the press stuff was kicking in and everything was building. You took a trip that I would describe as the trip of a lifetime to Jamaica, courtesy of Variety, wasn't it? You were doing a piece for Variety magazine.
Yeah, it was great. On Christmas Day of last year, I got an email from my editor at Variety, and she said, I just got this press release sent to me, and it sounds like it's perfect for you. You might want to contact these people. And it was a press release from a PR firm that was working with the Jamaican Tourist Board. Right. And they were putting together what they call a Bond trip or some type of a Bond excursion. And it didn't have much info on it, but I was immediately intrigued. So I sent them an email back and said, could you tell me more about this? And they sent me the itinerary and it was amazing. So I told them that I write for Variety, that I also work with James Bond Radio, and they were thrilled to have somebody who was Bond knowledgeable come on the trip. So it was all expenses paid, flew me out to Jamaica, hotels, everything was, they just opened the keys to Jamaica, basically. Dude, it was amazing.
There's been a few times in my life when I've logged onto Facebook and I've just scanned through my feed to see what's been going on. And there's been a handful of times in my life when I've gone, oh my God, and said that out loud. One of them is when Chris went to Istanbul years ago, and I think it might have even been before we even started the podcast. But years ago, I went to Istanbul, and he recreated all the shots from the mosque and all that kind of stuff, and it was so perfect. And then one of those occasions was when I saw some of the photos you took in Jamaica, dude. Because Jamaica, man, that's where it all started. That's like Mecca, basically, isn't it, for Bond fans? So
it really is.
What an incredible! What was it like, dude? Come on, talk to me, because some of those photographs, it's Doctor No, it's Live and Let Die, it's No Time to Die. all sorts of action going on. How does that feel? Did you land at Ian Fleming International Airport now, isn't it, as well? One of the, did you fly by there or?
No, I was hoping we were going to fly either there or that Norman Manley airport that Connery arrived at in Dr. No. Instead, I showed up at the Sangster airport. It's a slightly different one. Although even at Sangster, the second you get off the flight and you're walking down this little path to get to your luggage, the first thing you see, you know how when you arrive at some place, there'll be signs up that says like, visit this place, visit that place. There was a poster of Connery holding his gun, and it just said Jamaica 007. So everybody sees that. They didn't put it up just for us. It was great. It was, you immediately feel it the second you walk off that plane. It has that exotic vibe.
I can imagine. I've not made it to Jamaica yet, but it's obviously high on the list. Did you have, Bond theme playing in your ears as soon as you got off that plane? Like in Doctor No, Sean Connery's just got to have a little wander down the street and the Bond theme plays. So it's kind of like, I imagine that goes on in your brain when you're there.
You totally feel that. I had been listening to Mango Tree the couple of days before that nonstop just to try to get that feeling. I was so primed for it. One of the great things about the trip was that it was really small. There were 8 of us, 8 journalists on this trip, and that's it. So we didn't have to compete to run up to a space and like be the first one in line. It was a very intimate group. Everybody got to know each other. You feel that Bondian vibe the second that you step out into the city itself. It is a really amazing place. I wasn't sure how much Bond stuff there actually still was left in Jamaica. Like I had read on the Trail of 007 book. I took that with me. But man, especially with the addition of No Time to Die, this place is like Disneyland for Bond fans. It's all right there. It's also really small, so you can see a lot in a few days. The trip itself was 5 days. The first day was basically traveling there. The last day was traveling home. So we had 3 solid days of Bond tourism. If we had done 2 more days, we could have seen almost the entire island. As it was, there were things we missed, like the Queen's Club, the King's House, the Jump Up Club. We didn't get to those spots. Right. Those were sort of on the southern side of the island. We stuck mostly in the northern part. But if somebody wants to do this trip, 5 days, you can see a lot in Jamaica, a lot of Bond stuff.
Interesting. All right, that's good to know. Were there any other Bond super geeks on the trip with you? Any of the new journalist pals, or was it you going undercover a little bit?
Yeah, it was mostly me. The other people were mostly travel writers or some food writers, so their Bond knowledge wasn't that great, but they were lovely people, and very quickly they started realizing that I was the Bond expert there, at least in our group. So I was getting a lot of questions. Which movie was this from? Or what scene took place here? And it became a running joke where I'd walk around everywhere we went with photos from the movies, like comparison photos, and I would match them up to do that side-by-side photography of where we are and what it looked like in the film. So that became an interesting thing for the other journalists to see, that people could actually be this into the Bond series.
I can imagine. You make quite a good tour guide as well, because you've taken JW and I and JBR listener Ryan. I can't remember how he says his last name. Is it Capacey? I think
that's how I call him.
Yeah. Took us on a tour of the cemetery over there and led us to Cubby's grave and Telly Savalas's grave and all the rest of it. So you're quite a natural toursman, as I would say. So that must have been good for the other guys.
Well, it's great because my girlfriend and I like to do a lot of traveling. She really wants to do more traveling. So combining her interest of travel and mine with Bond has been very helpful to us to pick vacation spots. And for some reason, she wasn't as into the idea of going to Jamaica. It just wasn't high on her list. Yeah. So this was great because there was no +1 allowed on this trip. So if you're going to do this one, I think you really have to go with some Bond people. Because I don't know how much else there is in Jamaica to really see, unless you want to just do a lot of beach vacationing or there's not a lot, but the Bond stuff is just amazing there.
Dude, incredible stuff. All right then. So you've just touched down in Jamaica. What's the first thing on the itinerary? What did you see first up?
The first thing we did was go to our hotel, the first hotel we were staying at, and that was Half Moon Resort in Jamaica. And the cool thing about Half Moon was, I mean, it's a beautiful place. It's a colonial style hotel. It looks like something out of Fleming's age. It's right on the beach. All of the rooms are actually little bungalows, individual bungalows on the beach.
Right.
And what was so great about it is this was the first stop on the Bond tour, because this was Bond's hotel in Live and Let Die.
No
His
way.
It was right next to mine. His hotel, his little bungalow is 1039 at Half Moon Resort. And this is the one where he stayed in, where he kills the snake with the aerosol can.
Yeah.
This is where Whisper delivers his, his champagne.
Champagne, yeah.
Where he has his morning, where he gets the tarot card, where he sits out and has his morning coffee out on a patio. That bungalow, it's changed a little bit since the film, but the second I walked by it, I was like, that was Bond's bungalow.
That's the one. Yeah. Oh, mate, that's incredible stuff. I love that. That's an extra bonus on the trip if you're actually staying at the same place that Bond stayed at. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that, does it? Really?
No. What was so cool too is we met the manager of the hotel who was there during the filming. We interviewed him. The journalists all kind of spoke to him. And as we were talking to him about what it was like to meet Roger Moore and what it was like when they were filming Live and Let Die, his wife brought out a computer, and on it was all his private photos that he took of Moore meeting him and hanging out on the set with Moore. So these are photos. These are like just somebody's private photos. They're not available on the Thunderballs site, where they have every single picture. These guys would love to have a copy of these photos. It was, I mean, you really heard it right from the guy who was there at the time. It was amazing.
That is incredible, man. Cool stuff. All right, then. So Half Moon was your first stop. You, I'm sure you got a cigar on the go. And you had a shave and all the rest of it, and probably battled a snake in the bathroom. What was the next thing on the itinerary?
The next thing was probably the next day. We went out for the first trip. We went to another hotel. That was the Couple Sanssouci Hotel. And what it is the Half Moon Hotel is where Bond stayed in Live and Let Die. Couple Sanssouci is another part of the hotel that he stayed there. It's where he goes to the gift shop to buy the tarot cards. And sort of fixes the deck. So two different hotels in two different spots in Jamaica. In the film, they both combine and form his one hotel. It's sort of the magic of editing.
Okay. All right. Okay.
It's also, that Couple Sanssouci is also where Moore arrived and checks in, and the hotel manager tells him Mrs. Bond has already arrived.
All right.
So we saw that area. This hotel was interesting too, because they have a special Roger Moore suite that was dedicated to him after the filming.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's got his name above the door engraved on the wall. We ended up going in there and seeing where Roger Moore stayed. It's this beautiful little hotel room with a gorgeous balcony overlooking a private beach. So this hotel was really you could feel Roger Moore walking around there. It was so nice to sort of walk in his footsteps for a little while.
That's a beautiful thing. I'm a big fan of anything that's dedicated to Roger Moore. So that makes it even more special in my eyes. So tell me this then. So obviously the Bond films of Jamaica, Dr. No, Live and Let Die, of course, now No Time to Die. So having gone in and seen some No Time to Die, before we talk about the No Time to Die locations, I should say, like, how did you go in approaching this as a journalist? I'm sure you might be a little bit different to a lot of fans. So were you going in trying to sort of keep a lot of the secrets of what's in the film to one side a little bit, or were you like, just give it all to me? How is your approach? Are you trying to stay spoiler free is what I'm trying to say in a roundabout sense?
Yeah, I hadn't really seen the trailer. I had avoided the trailer for No Time to Die. I'd avoided a lot of the stories about it in the news. I was kind of doing what Chris does and going in as blind as I could be. But when I got to Jamaica and it was about these locations, these 5 locations we saw from No Time to Die, I threw that all out the window, and I had to know more about, I mean, in some ways to write the article that I was there to write.
Yeah.
I had to find out as much as I could. So I got spoiled in a few little things, but now that the film has been booted down to November, I don't think it's going to matter. I'll forget most of those by the time it actually comes around.
We've got long enough. So you mentioned, so it was the Ken Jones Aerodrome. That's where you landed, was it, when you arrived, or is that one of the locations?
No, Ken Jones Aerodrome was is the first location we saw from No Time to Die.
Okay.
They divvied it up so that the last day we were there was just No Time to Die locations. That was kind of the special day. And the first one we saw was Ken Jones Aerodrome. And now that is a very, very small airfield. It's got 2 little structures on it. It's one long runway. It's in the middle of what feels like nowhere, basically. It's just lush green hills on one side, this bright blue water on the other. And all they could tell us about it was that a plane takes off in the film from this location. They couldn't tell us who was on it or how it fits into the story. So you have to use your imagination in a way and figure, like, is Bond on this plane? Is somebody else on this plane?
Okay.
But you look around there and it feels like someplace Bond would land. It's discreet. Okay. It just feels like a secret airfield. It reminded me in a lot of ways of some of the airfields in that movie, The Wild Geese, the Roger Moore's adventure film.
Okay.
Like it has that kind of jungle vibe to it. So that was a really neat spot. Although the other journalists kept looking at me going like, how do we write about this? Like, what's interesting about this airfield? Why are you taking so many pictures of a runway? But anybody who loves these movies as much as we do, you just want to soak it all in so that when you see the film, you can remember you were there, that you could.
Well, that would be my move as well. I would take a photo from as many angles as possible. So then hopefully one of those would stumble on an angle used in the film, and then you could, you've got it then, haven't you? But I salute you for your geekery, my man, because that's a beautiful thing. Okay, all right. Cool. So a jungly airstrip, we've got that to look forward to in No Time to Die. That'll keep us going for the next 6-7 months or so.
It's strange to be at a location before the movie comes out. That was unusual for me. I've only done Bond tourism where, the films are much older by the time you visit the spot, so you know exactly where to stand and what it was like. But seeing them ahead of time, it's just a different experience. It's hard to describe what that's like. You end up imagining the movie in your head before you've even seen it. It's a weird way to experience it.
That's it. I suppose that's a somewhat unique chance you've had there to go to a spot that you know is going to be in a new Bond film before it's even out, and you know what the scene is all about. So nice one. Cool. All right, next up then, so you went to Bound Brook Wharf, which also features in No Time to Die. So talk to me about that.
Yeah, so that was the second location from No Time to Die that we visited, and it's called Bound Brook Wharf. It's also known as the Old Banana Wharf, and it's a disused wharf where they used to unload and load up bananas to ship out of Jamaica. And in the film, I find out that this is going to be set in Cuba, this wharf. I guess they were already filming in Jamaica Bond stuff, so they decided to put the Cuba stuff right there as well. And when we got there, it's right on the water. It's this large structure that had seen better days. And we were told that they had painted murals all over the structure that were recreations of actual Cuban political murals of Castro and Che Guevara. I was hoping that we would see those murals still left up there, like some remnant of the film. Yeah. But immediately after they finished shooting, they repainted them all with bright blue paint to keep them secret so that fans who found out they were shooting there wouldn't come and spoil the surprise, which we're spoiling right now.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. Have you ever been to Cuba? I suppose as an American, you've not been allowed to go to Cuba. That's a good point. That's That's one of the things I find intriguing about this plot, because I think Cuba is a very intriguing country, isn't it? The way it's been sort of annexed off from the rest of the world a little bit, and you've got all those old cars and this weird little, almost like a time capsule, isn't it? That country, and it's like I'm really intrigued to see what happens with Bond there. Obviously, there's lots of other places doubling for it, but yeah, I'm intrigued to see what Cuban action we get.
It's going to be a rough one to visit. Some of these spots are going to be open to the public, because this is a trip that the Jamaican Tourist Board is actively developing for Bond fans.
Nice.
That's what part of the purpose of this whole trip was, this press trip, was to pave the way and let people know pretty soon you're going to be able to do all of this stuff if everything goes right. This one's going to be tricky to do on your own, because there is a large fence in the way of the wharf. So because we were with the tourist board, every door was open to us. That was one of the most valuable parts of this trip, was just getting access to these locations. Yeah. So they had finished filming months before we got there, of course. So the place had kind of gone to hell. I guess they had cleaned it up when they were filming. By the time we got there, as we're walking towards the wharf, we're walking over piles of dead rats, garbage, stuff you don't want to know about. So it started reverting back to it's not a great look to this place. I think if they're gonna let tourists and Bond fans in here, they're gonna have to clean up some of these locations, which are not really meant for a lot of people to come and sightsee on. But the wharf was a really beautiful spot. And we were also told that what happens in the film is a ship comes in. You see it in one of the recent trailers. A ship comes towards the wharf and explodes. So they did this large action scene right at the wharf. It was shot at night. They told us that the locals, they had to let everyone in the area know there's going to be a massive explosion tonight. Don't worry, nothing's actually on fire. There's not a terrorist attack. We're just making a movie. So they said that all the locals came out, surrounded the place. And this is all going to be like I said, in the Cuba section. So look for that in the film when you see it. When you see a large ship blow up, that is the old Banana Wharf in Jamaica, and hopefully you can check it out yourself.
All right, nice. All right, cool. Banana Wharf it is. Bound Brook Wharf is the current name of it. All right, cool stuff. And then so looking at the list of places you went, man, there's a lot of No Time to Die action happening in Jamaica, isn't there? So we had the Market Square that features in No Time to Die. So tell me about that. Yeah, so Market Square is this city block, sort of the intersection of West Street and William Street, and it's in the Port Antonio area of Jamaica. That's where Port Antonio is sort of on the north side towards the east, and that's where almost all of the No Time to Die stuff is located. It's a bustling city streets, and a driving scene was shot here. This was also done in Cuba as well, where they had the whole area was decked out to look like with Cuban soldiers were in costume and Cuban police, and they had all of this set dressings to turn this block of this neighborhood into what looks exactly like Cuba. I'm not sure if Bond is in the driving scene or if it's somebody else, but if you do end up visiting Market Square, you have to go to this little restaurant that's right there called Piggy's. And Piggy's is a jerk shack, or a jerk center, they call them. Jerk is the food of Jamaica, basically. It's a spice rub. Have you had jerk chicken or jerk? Oh, yeah, big time. Yeah, I love it, yeah. So Piggy's makes, according to the locals there, the best jerk in Jamaica. Daniel Craig loved Piggy's jerk. All the crew did. They said that they used to eat there through lunch day after day after day. And Craig was such a fan of it that the owner of Piggy's invited him in, taught him how to make jerk himself. Nice. Yeah, they became kind of friends. And then after filming wrapped, unfortunately, Piggy's burned down. There was a kitchen fire, and the whole place burned down. And Craig found out about it and started or at least participated in a fundraiser to raise money to rebuild Piggy's. And within a few days, they had enough funds. So Piggy's has been completely rebuilt. When we got there, it's now a
cinder block building that's now never going to burn down again.
Yeah.
We had some of the jerk. It's amazing. So definitely, if you go to Market Square to see where they shot No Time to Die, hit up Piggy's, and you're gonna, you can ask the owner Eustace what Daniel Craig was like. He's a real character,
Nice.
Eustace. So definitely do that.
Cool, awesome stuff. I remember when I went to Karlovy Vary to visit, the Casino Royale locations there, just down the street from the hotel that was the Hotel Splendide. There's a little restaurant, and I forget what kind of restaurant it is now. It might be an Italian or something like that. But basically, wallpapered over all the outside is all these celebrities that have been to eat there over the years, because they have a film festival in Karlovy Vary as well every year. So there's loads of famous names that have been there over the years. And there's like 2 or 3 different shots of Daniel at this restaurant. Some of them he's in the kitchen helping out, and some of them he's, just sitting there having a good time or whatever in the restaurant. So I wonder if our man Daniel's a bit of a dab hand in the kitchen. Maybe that's a little hobby of his. I wonder if he's, learning all these skills of the trade.
Well, he's got good taste, because this was great. I mean, the food in Jamaica is really good. It was so nice to have, after hearing that song Underneath the Mango Tree where they talk about ackee. I had never had ackee before, but every morning, salt fish and ackee, very Fleming breakfast.
Okay, talk to me about ackee. What does we're going to get John Williams very excited saying ackee.
Yeah,
this is obviously a different type of ackee.
It looks like when they made salt fish and ackee that I was having, it looks like a plate of scrambled eggs with spicy, salty fish chopped up and put in it. I'm not actually sure what I was eating, what ackee is. I guess it's a vegetable of some kind, or
okay.
But I can see why people like it. It was really good.
All right, interesting stuff. Cool. Next up, then, another No Time to Die location. You were at Coco Walk. What was Coco Walk?
This Coco Walk is the place you really want to go if you're into No Time to Die. If you've seen the trailer of No Time to Die, there's that beautiful shot of the yacht kind of drifting towards this tree line in a bay.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful shot. That is Coco Walk that it's coming towards. And Coco Walk is a private beach, and that's where in the film Bond is retired to Jamaica, and he's living in a secluded cabin on the water. Coco Walk is where he lives. So that great shot of Daniel standing on his deck looking out at the water, it's very moody looking. He looks like he's thinking deep thoughts. We were standing right there. It's such a cool spot to see, especially because, I don't know, even if it wasn't associated with No Time to Die, you really feel like it's just, this is Jamaica. It's private. It's all overgrown. It's beautifully lush. There's nobody around for miles. It's a great spot. It's another one that's going to be difficult to visit until they open the whole trip up to tourists, because this is a private beach owned by somebody who doesn't necessarily want dozens and dozens of people every day coming towards their beach.
Yeah.
We were told that the crew built Bond's cabin on the water from scratch. There's nothing there. And when we got there, it was already gone. They had demolished it immediately after filming. But it still looks exactly the way it does in the trailer.
Nice.
Like every tree line looks exactly like it. It's a really special spot.
You sent me a really nice comparison shot, which I'll flash up on the screen on the YouTube version right now. A comparison shot where Daniel stood there in frame, and you've got that precise shot as well when you were there as well. So I suppose the thing that you hope when you go somewhere like that is that you can find some little relic left behind if they didn't quite tidy up after themselves. Close enough, if there's anything left over, you can, I'm just going to grab that little bit of wood or whatever. Did you see anything like that at all, or was it spotless?
I looked for it. I wanted to find even just like a little nail or something. No, it's been picked over. People have already combed it. I think the crew was very diligent when they removed everything from there. Probably the owner didn't want any of it around either.
I can imagine.
But it's a neat spot. It's also really buggy there, though. When you go to Jamaica, definitely bring bug spray. After walking through Coco Walk, when we got back on the tour bus or the little tour van, my ankles had been so chewed up by the little sand bugs that were around there. So It's maybe not the most comfortable spot to walk around in, but you definitely feel like Bond when you're walking through Coco Walk.
All right, Coco Walk, very nice. And then before we get on to going back to the days of Dr. No and Live and Let Die, you have Coco Sam Villa, which I believe is where Daniel stayed during the filming. Is that right?
Yeah, so this isn't going to be in the film. This is where, like you said, Daniel, for 2 weeks, spent 2 weeks there. I guess his wife joined him for one of those weeks. And Coco Sam Villa is part of this resort called the G-Jam Resort in Jamaica. It's a real exclusive celebrity resort, basically. It's made up of, I think, 6 different villas. Each one is designed with its own unique style. Daniel's was very modern. It looks like something out of a Tarantino movie. All of the furniture is stylish. There's this giant, bright Ferrari red piano in the middle of the place. Nice. The walls are all covered with these plexiglass recreations of Playboy magazine covers from the 60s and 70s. Very groovy place. It's got this massive vinyl record collection. We were told it rents for $6,000 a night. He stayed there for 2 weeks. There's a recording studio on the property, and this is where people have no doubt recorded a bunch of their albums there. Amy Winehouse recorded some of her albums there. Alicia Keys, Beyonce. This is it's a very music-centered resort. It's part recording studio, part hotel, basically, and Craig's. You could see how Craig would have a good time here. The pool is beautiful. All of the windows in the place are porthole windows, so they're these big, round, circular windows, which immediately made me think of the gun barrel logo from.
Nice.
Bond. So I was trying to find something Bondian, and immediately those porthole windows just jump out at you as the gun barrel.
Damn, being James Bond is nice work if you can get it, isn't it? I mean, $6,000 a night for for a 2-week stay while you're shooting. That's life doesn't get much better than that, does it? Really?
Nah, it's beautiful.
Cool. All right then. So take me back in time, Matt. Take me back to the days of Dr. No. What did you see? What was the first Dr. No location that you saw?
Well, the first Dr. No location was the one everybody wants to go to, and it's Laughing Waters, which is, of course, the spot where Ursula walks out of the ocean. And that, I was hoping that was going to live up to my expectations, and that it wasn't going to be overrun with tourists snapping photos, and I was kind of dreading that. And it was exceeded all of my expectations. It's such a beautiful spot. It immediately brings to mind Dr. No. The color of the sky, the color of the water, the color of the sand. It hasn't changed one bit since that film premiered.
That is good to hear. I know with James Bond Island in Thailand, it looks exactly the same as the film, but obviously every day you get boatloads of tourists. So I actually went twice. The first time I went, it was shoulder to shoulder people, and it was, you struggle to get any kind of photos really without 100 people in it. But then when I went back, we rented a boat and went first thing in the morning before the boats arrived, and it was just like, that's the time to see it. It looks absolutely perfect. So that's great to hear that Laughing Waters is like that, man. You would imagine that would be, tourist spot number one, wouldn't you, really?
I thought it was going to be overrun, but what's good about it is it's owned by the Jamaican government. They want to keep it pristine, so they don't let a lot of people on it every year. You can rent out the spot, I think, for weddings and social events, for photo shoots maybe, and you're allowed maybe a few hours on the beach, and then you have to get off. So it hasn't been spoiled. It's still pristine. And there were only 8 of us on this entire beach walking around taking photos. Immediately, everyone ran into the water. It's so warm. It's so perfect. We were all just kind of giddy, especially those of us who had recently seen the film. A few of the journalists did watch the movie right before the trip, so they understood how important this spot was. And you've got the waterfall right there where Bond and Honey bathe, where it just feels exactly like you're on the set of Dr. No. It's fantastic. And then right near there is also this place called the the White River. And that is where Bond and Honey end up, when they go under the water and they're breathing through those reeds where they have Quarrel with them and they're trying to escape from Dr. No's guards. The White River is right next to Laughing Waters, and that also looks identical. The water is that same weird green algae color that it is in the film. Nothing has changed. The color is identical. The overgrown brush on the sides of the White River look just like where Bond and Honey were hiding from the guards. It's perfect. It's like they preserved it just for us.
Now tell me this, did you do what I would have done? First thing I would have done is I'd have sought out a little reed and had a go at the old reed snorkel. Did you give that a try or not?
No, I wanted to, but the water looked kind of nasty. Like you wouldn't want to.
Okay.
Better to photograph it from afar and to enjoy it from the shore than to actually get in there. It didn't look that safe.
I get it.
Go under it.
That guy's body's still probably floating around somewhere out there as well. You don't want to, you don't want to deal with that. All right, cool, good stuff. Laughing Waters. Then next up, the Moon Palace Resort, also a Doxino spot. So what was that all about?
So Moon Palace was another hotel that we stayed at, and it's kind of a Vegas-y style hotel. It doesn't really feel like Jamaica. It could be anywhere. It's got like Japanese restaurants and Italian restaurants inside. It's a very family style, all-inclusive resort. So they chose it because it was near a lot of Bond locations, but it doesn't have, at least I didn't think at the time that it had a connection to the films. Except as we were leaving to go on a tour one day, the hotel manager stopped us and said he wanted to show us their helipad. So I thought, this is going to be really boring. He's going to take us to the roof. We're going to see a new helipad that he's very proud of because guests can fly in now. And you kind of have to do these things on press trips sometimes in order to get to the fun stuff. You have to put up with some of the PR stuff. Yeah. But I couldn't be more wrong. They took us out to the water and we're walking out to this long dock on the ocean, because this hotel is right on the water. And instead we come to a helipad that's no longer being used, but it was an original Bond helipad where they flew cast and crew from Dr. No into this area. It has a massive 007 painted on it from back in the day. The first O in 00 had crumbled off years ago and snapped off and fell into the water, but it's still right there, visible from the helipad. So, I mean, this was a cool location because when you've read On the Tracks of 007, that book, I mean, it's the Bible of Bond travel.
It is a Bible, yeah.
This isn't in there. So that was really exciting. If they ever do,
you're going to make Martin jealous now. You've said that he's going to have to book a trip.
he's got to go back there because I mean, maybe he's added to the website. I know they update that. But it's definitely not in the copy of the book I saw. And it's so cool to see this massive 007 on this tiny little helipad, and the first O is crumbled off. It feels like you're looking at an ancient ruin or something.
Yeah.
So even the other tourists, the other press people on the trip knew that this was special, that this was something unique. Also, when you're standing on the helipad and you look out at the water in front of you, you see the Reynolds Pier, the bauxite mine that Dr. No lived in. That was his underground base, basically, the one where Honey and Bond jump off at the end. It's literally from the helipad, a stone's throw right across the water. Dude. So you feel like you are right in Dr. No land.
That's got to be a massive one. Yeah. Sorry, go on, after you.
Oh yeah, just one last thing. With Moon Palace, although it's very Dr. No-y around there, right across the street from Moon Palace, I realized, was the Ruins restaurant from Live and Let Die, where Baron Samedi does his nightclub act.
Dance, yeah.
Yeah, so I so wanted to go there. I thought we could sneak out at night and go and have a drink at the Ruins and see if they still have that waterfall that's falling behind them. But it closed, I was told, in 2015. So it's you can't really do anything there. But man, this place was, the helipad and the bauxite mine across from it was more than enough.
That's one of those things, man. When you look at that bauxite mine, I've seen photos of it in recent times as well. And it's like, because obviously in the film, it had that sort of like rusty red look to it, didn't it? That's
Right.
that sort of color. I think it's a different color now from the photos I saw anyway, but it's still like that sort of pier looking part that kind of, you see Connery run and jump off and all the rest of it. Like that is identical. And I always think that it's one thing when you go, I don't know, somewhere like London and you see a spot from Spectre or Skyfall or something that happened in recent years. But man, that was the very beginning of the whole thing, 1962. And to be able to go and see those exact spots and like in your mind's eye, be able to see Bond, Sean Connery jumping off that thing and Honey Rider, it's like you don't get more classic than that. You know what I mean? That's the beginning of the whole thing. And there it is. It's still there, man. That blows my mind.
It's so great that it, like you said, it looks identical. The color is changed, which is a little bit tricky because there are a few of these mines around on the same road where this one is, where the Reynolds one is. And the other ones are still painted that bright orange color that it was in the film.
Right.
So I kept arguing with our tour guide stupidly that he was showing us the wrong mine.
Right.
And I was like telling the other press people like, oh, I think he's got this one wrong. I think it's the other one. I was completely idiotic.
That guy on the trip.
Yeah. I learned my lesson. I apologize the second that I realized, oh no, that's the real one. So yeah, it is really cool. And it's still being used. We couldn't go to the bauxite mine. They tried to open it for us, but there just wasn't enough time. I would have loved to have stood on that wharf and or that little part where they leaped off, but no, we couldn't do that.
If you were to choose an all-time iconic Bond location, I would say you'd be hard pushed to beat the Crocodile Farm, man. Ross Kananga's Crocodile Farm, and you got to go there as well, didn't you?
Oh, that was one of my favorite spots in the entire trip. It might have been the best because it's the most interactive, and it's called Jamaica Swamp Safari Village. And it's a massive crocodile farm, and it looks exactly like it did in the film. In fact,
David.
some of the people who work there knew Ross Kananga. They worked at the Safari Village when they shot the film there. I got to talk to them. You go up to the gift shop or the entrance, and right inside the ticket taker where she sells you the ticket is a framed portrait of Ross Kananga standing next to Roger Moore as they were filming it.
Whoa.
And man, Kananga was such a badass. This dude in the shot, he's got a cowboy hat on, he's got his shirt wide open, a bone necklace, sideburns down to his chin. He's carrying a pistol in his belt. He looks like Crocodile Dundee's cooler brother. He's such a badass. And Roger Moore, who's usually the coolest person in any photograph, is staring at Ross Kananga like, dude, you've got it going on. Like he looks
nice. I think it's one of those things, isn't it, man? Like when you think about it, the Live and Let Die book, there is no Kananga. It's just Mr. Big, isn't it? And then obviously the taken off of the face and all the rest of it was invented for the film. And to have a guy come along like that, and then they name him. They named the lead villain after him. He must have been a badass, man, because I've heard stories about him being like quite a, I don't know if flamboyant's the right word, but like just a really out there kind of character that everybody loved. And to have a Bond villain named after you, man, you had to have had an effect on the makers of the film there for sure.
I think he definitely, you feel his presence when you're there. A bunch of the drug lab that Bond burns down, they've changed. They built that drug lab for the film, and then they actually burned it down in the movie. And then the Ross Kananga and his people rebuilt it so that tourists who come there who want to experience Live and Let Die's location can see it. And they've told us that over the years it's burned down several times, and they keep rebuilding it. But they renamed it the Ross Kananga something or other. You see his name everywhere. Yeah. I asked one of the workers there, this guy Donald, what Kananga was like, and he got so choked up when he was telling me. He said he was more than a father to me. Donald told me, and he said he was the most generous man he had ever met, the bravest man he had ever met. You can tell this guy is a larger than life figure, and he's still means something to everybody who works at this place. The coolest part of the whole trip, though, of that alligator farm was when Donald looked at me and he said, "Do you want to go to the island where they stranded Roger Moore?"
I mean, Jesus. Yes, of course. Yeah, absolutely.
So they no longer have that retractable bridge that Teehee kind of walked them out on. Instead, they built a permanent structure, but it was fenced in on either side because there are so many crocodiles in that area.
Yeah, yeah.
So Donald walks me all the way down this long path, and then he unlocks a gate and he goes out onto James Bond Island, they call it. And it's that little disc area where Roger Moore was stranded. And I was about to follow Donald out onto the disc, and that was the only time he got really stern, and he put up his hand like, no. And I was like, oh, am I not supposed to go there? And I realized it's because there are crocodiles everywhere. As he's talking to me, he takes a piece of chicken out of his pocket. I didn't see any of the crocodiles here, but he takes a piece of chicken and he's talking to me, and then he tosses it over his shoulder, and this log or thing that I thought was a log turns out it's a crocodile, and it leaps out, eats the chicken. I leapt back. Donald doesn't blink an eye. He's so used to dealing with these animals. It was one of the best parts of the entire trip was standing right at James Bond Island and seeing these live crocodiles. That
was like a Teehee moment for you right there and then, you know? Yeah, perfect. That's perfect. Yeah, good God, man.
They show when you go there, they in that little drug lab area, they have a video playing constantly of scenes from Live and Let Die that were shot there, behind the scenes images of Ross Kananga. So you feel it everywhere. There's posters of Live and Let Die around there. As you're walking through the park, they're playing the theme song to it. Yeah. So they lean into Live and Let Die.
That's a beautiful thing. I love it when they do that, when they really embrace this stuff. You know, it's not just somewhere you show up and it's just like, oh, that's where it was over there. And there's no real reference to anything. But I love it, man, when they go deep like that. That's amazing. That's so cool. And it's lovely to hear those guys that were there when the film was being made as well, and remember Kananga and all the rest of it. That's lovely. So you were going to say something.
Yeah, that great scene in Live and Let Die where they're driving Roger Moore to the crocodile farm. Remember, there's a big one that walks across a path. A big crocodile kind of falls into the water on the other side. You walk right down that path. The layout of the place hasn't changed a second. That little area where he steals a speedboat and launches into the speedboat chase, that's still right where you expect it to be. Everything is laid out there. It's awesome.
That's amazing, man. Do they still have the trespassers will be eaten sign?
Yeah, that's still right up there.
That's what you want. Beautiful. Oh, mate, I am green with envy today. That's amazing.
And the access they give you is so great. I mean, they'll take you, if you go there, ask them to go out onto James Bond Island. Definitely talk to these people. They'll be more than happy to accommodate you. They know why Bond fans are there. In fact, when you first pull up to Jamaica Swamp Safari, there's a sign on the side of the road right in front of the place that says, Live and Let Die, locations from the James Bond classic. So they know people are coming here to both see crocodiles and to see Bond, a great Bond location.
Nice, sweet. All right, cool. I love that. I love it when they embrace it, man. That's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Next up, then, you went to another Live and Let Die spot, which was Cinnamon Hill Golf Course. Talk to me about that.
This is from Live and Let Die, and this is the graveyard in Live and Let Die. The one that we see Bond and Solitaire walk past, and they remember during the day, Baron Samedi is playing his flute.
Yeah.
He has that little scene. That was actually shot on a golf course. And it's at hole 15 on Cinnamon Hill Golf Course. So if you're a golfer and a Bond fan, definitely reserve a game at Cinnamon Hill and pay special attention to hole 15. Right off the green, you'll see this large wall of trees, a cliffside, and there's the waterfall that you see in the film is still right there. It hasn't stopped trickling down.
Oh, dude.
I know they built that little shack that you see in the film and the side of the graveyard. They built that from scratch, but that's no longer there. None of the gravestones are actually there. Although on the Tracks of 007 book, there's a mention of and one last cross gravestone is supposedly hidden on the property somewhere.
Okay.
So I went looking for it. I was moving brush around, trying to see if I could find it, but I didn't stumble across it. But it's such a neat spot. We had to wait before we could go there because a bunch of golfers were actually right at that hole. So you have to wait for them to move on, and then suddenly we could come and take over and start filming that place. It's a really neat little spot. You can see why they chose it. It's very picturesque. The waterfalls throughout Jamaica are just wonderful.
I can imagine. Yeah, beautiful stuff. And then one of the other photos I saw on your Facebook, which made me go, oh my God, was the underground caves, which I don't think they actually filmed in the underground caves, did they? But that maybe inspired Kananga's base in the film. Is that right?
They filmed some of the shots at this place. Okay. It's called Green Grotto Caves. And this is on the north coast of Jamaica. Some of the shots of Bond in solitaire running through the caves were shot right there. And a lot of publicity shots from the film were shot right there. The actual underground lake that Bond fights Kananga and he explodes, that was shot on a studio. But most of the other cave scenes that you see in Live and Let Die were shot right there. So this is a spot that anybody can go to. You don't need the tourist board to get you in. You show up there. You have to wear hard hats and hair nets when you go through the cave system, because for two reasons. They don't want you cracking your head open on a rock, because some of these caves that you're crawling through, it's not great if you have claustrophobia. You're crawling on hands and knees at times through tunnels to get to larger cave areas. So they don't want you splitting your head open, and they also want to keep the bats away from your hair, because this cave is loaded with bats. They swoop down from little crevices above you. We saw quite a few of them. There's, I think, 9 species that live in this cave system. Wow. So you have to kind of crawl through this area. Your tour guide will point out where they filmed certain scenes from Live and Let Die. Our guide was a real character. He was doing impressions the whole time. He does a great Sean Connery impression. He didn't have a Roger Moore down, but his Sean Connery was excellent.
Beautiful.
So he pointed out a bunch of different stuff, and you just have to take what the guides say with a grain of salt, because he took us down to what they call Grotto Lake, and that's at the very, very bottom of this cave system. And it's an underground lake that looks somewhat like it did in Live and Let Die. Right. Except he told us this is where they filmed that scene, where they lower Bond in solitaire down. And I'm looking around here and I'm going, there is absolutely no way that they moved all of this equipment down through this tunnel and got it all the way down here. It just was not shot here. I think it inspired that scene, but they definitely didn't film it here. Unfortunately, the guides have been telling everyone who visits this cave system that this is where they filmed the climax of Live and Let Die. He was even pointing out spots where they lowered them down through here, and right there is where the shark came in. I was like, they did not bring a shark into this cave system. There's no way. Like
that's a lesson for him. Never take a true geek on a tour like that, because you know your stories will be dug out. Yeah,
I'm sure people went home thinking that they had seen it, but I went back that night and looked at the scene again in the hotel, and I was like, nah, this was Pinewood. This is definitely a studio set. I mean, Cubby was a large man. Cubby couldn't have fit through some of these tunnels that we had to go through.
It's literally that tight down there.
Yeah, there's a few of the journalists couldn't go through it. They begged off and they said, I'm not going to go to that part because it was a little too tight for comfort. But there was no way that they shot it there. But still, it's a surreal place, and the caves are gorgeous. The stalactites and stalagmites look like something out of a Salvador Dali painting. It's very spooky. You could see why the location hunters for the film picked this spot instead of just building a fake cave. It's really impressive.
Damn, dude, that's amazing. Now, any trip to Jamaica for a Bond fan isn't complete without visiting Ian Fleming's house, GoldenEye. Did you manage to make it there as part of the trip?
Yeah, we did. That was a once in a lifetime moment. I wasn't surprised that we didn't stay there, because it's really expensive. It's
Yeah.
it's over 10 grand a night to rent Fleming's Villa, which is a 5-room villa, a 5-bedroom villa. And it's as beautiful as you would expect. I don't know how over the years they've kept it at this state. It's so gorgeous. It's also weird that it doesn't have any glass windows. Like he wanted that open air feeling to it. So I kept imagining during rainstorms or something like that, how do they protect this spot? But somehow when the construction of the place, whether it's the window shutters that they have or the building materials they used, it's pristine. It's gorgeous. It's one of the most beautiful spots we saw anywhere in Jamaica. You first arrive at GoldenEye and they took us down to the front desk where you could see where guests who are staying there can check in. And right across from the front desk is the Fleming Room. And it's this mini library full of every book about Fleming, all of his own books. The walls are full of rare photos of Fleming working at GoldenEye, photos from the various films. You want to just spend your afternoon in the Fleming Room. Right underneath the Fleming Room is another little room that's a powder blue sitting room. So it has that Bond vibe right away, the powder blue. And all along the walls are photos from Dr. No of Honey meeting Bond on Laughing Waters. It's just such a cool spot.
Dude.
So you hang out there and then you go to the villa. And it has that sunken garden that Fleming commissioned them to build. You go through his living room is spotless. And then we went into his bedroom and his desk is right there. His original
desk. That's
desk.
the spot, isn't it? Right there. That's the spot, the desk in the corner. Yeah.
The desk, the chair. I sat down at the desk. I mean, it was a very moving experience to sit at that desk.
Did you write anything? Did you take a little sheet of paper and just write something on a pad or something?
No, but they had a notepad there that's from the resort itself, from GoldenEye, and it said GoldenEye on the top and had the address. Yeah. I was very tempted to take a sheet from there and just bring it home with me. They had a GoldenEye pen. But I left it all there. I was like, no, I'm not gonna pilfer anything from GoldenEye. I'll just take photos of it. But yeah, the desk is beautiful. I don't know. It's another one of those things. Like, how do they keep this furniture? Well, shouldn't that be in the Smithsonian or something?
Yeah.
You would think.
I mean, that corner desk, man. That's such a magical thing. I suppose the most magical thing is the fact that it's still sitting there in that same spot, where you'd have sat all those years ago and knocked out these books. But yeah, you're absolutely right, man. I'm surprised it hasn't been like put behind glass at some point,
No, people are just allowed to sit in it. I would think that somebody would rent the place and accidentally spill something on it, or somehow they've managed to keep it really clean and really in such a perfect state. The chair, I had reference photos of various shots of him sitting at his desk. The chair is his chair. It has that wagon wheel image on the back of it, or a wagon wheel construction. So, you can feel him all over this place. They don't lean into it too much in the villa itself. You don't find a lot of Bond stuff in the actual house. You find that in like I said, in the Fleming Room or in that little anti-room. The other cool thing is we went down to his private beach where he used to go snorkeling. And it's right behind the main villa. You go down this little staircase down to this little cove that is completely private, small little plot of sand. It has that, it looks exactly like it does on the cover of Matthew Parker's book GoldenEye, where Fleming is standing out there smoking his cigarette with the cigarette holder. You can see this boulder on the sand behind him. That boulder hasn't moved since that photo was taken. Dude. The cove is, you can just imagine him putting on his fins and his snorkel and diving out into the water. It's really a great, great place. It makes it worth it if you have 10 grand to drop on a hotel for the night. Yeah. The fact that you get this little beach is just an added bonus.
That is such a magical thing, man, because we've always heard that story, haven't we, about how he'd get up in the morning, he'd knock out a few hours writing, and then, break for lunch, go for a snorkel, and then maybe a bit more in the afternoon. We've heard that story so many times, and to be able to walk down those very same steps and walk in onto that little beach that he would have done every afternoon is just mind blowing, man. That's absolutely outrageous. And things like that, I love the way you notice things like that, of, like you said, that boulder there, that rock hasn't moved in, 70 years or whatever it is since he was there. It's just crazy, man. What a beautiful opportunity that was to go there.
Now, there are, if you can't afford the 10 grand for the Fleming Villa, there are a lot of other options in GoldenEye. There are all of these little cottages that they've built to accommodate additional guests. So you have beach cottages, lagoon huts, and they're all at different price points, and anywhere from like $400 a night for a beach hut to maybe $800 for a lagoon cabin. I definitely recommend the lagoon cabins. If you can't swing the full 10 grand for the villa, go for one of the lagoon cabins, because they're right on the water. You literally walk out of your bedroom onto a deck and then dive into the water. There's no beach to walk to, and then there's a ladder that you just climb back into your hut again. It's so worth it. There's everything about this resort is high class. It's incredibly exclusive. If you spend the night at this lagoon hut, be sure to ask somebody at the front desk if you can check the villa out. As long as nobody is currently staying there, they'll walk you right through there and give you however much time
that's nice.
you have available, so you can really see that villa. Because to stay there and not actually see the villa would be, I don't know, it would be very disappointing to me.
You got to see that desk, man. You've got to see that room for sure. Yeah, 100%.
It's such a great spot, and it's a little snooty. I'll say that the front desk guy who took us around the place, he realized that we weren't actually staying there, that we were just lowly journalists being walked through there. So there was some attitude there, but it almost made it better, because Fleming was such a notorious snob in so many ways that I think he would have appreciated the front desk guy giving us a little attitude. So it was fine for me.
There is something about that, though, isn't there? It's like if he wasn't a little bit snooty, it would almost be a little bit of a disappointment, wouldn't it? Someone like that, especially when it carries a price tag like GoldenEye does. You kind of want a bit of snootiness, I guess. But what a beautiful thing. You went to Noel Coward's place as well, didn't you? That's just down the road. Yeah,
that's right close by. Both Fleming's GoldenEye and Noel Coward's Firefly, his home is called Firefly. They're both in Oricabesa, the Oricabesa area. And it's an interesting comparison to GoldenEye, Firefly is, because GoldenEye still looks exactly the way it did in Fleming's age. In fact, it probably looks better. It's so beautifully preserved. For 10 grand, you're going to see, you want state of the art everything. But Noel Coward's Firefly hasn't changed since he died. When he died, the property was given to the Jamaican government. And part of the thing that they did with it was they didn't touch it. So it's very dusty. It's kind of gone to seed in a way. It hasn't been, they still take care of the outer grounds, but the house looks like an abandoned house inside. Everything has a layer of dust on it. The furniture hasn't moved since he died. The photos everywhere around there are kept exactly as they were. So you're seeing, in comparison to GoldenEye, you're seeing two places in very different states of repair.
Yeah.
But Firefly is kind of spooky in that way. It feels like you're walking through a mausoleum almost.
Yeah.
But it also puts you right back into that time period. There's a lot of the photos are of famous guests that came through there, including the Queen Mother, who in 1965 had lunch with Noel Coward there. He's actually buried on the property. You can see his grave. He has a beautiful slab on the ground overlooking the Blue Mountains, where you have that famous Blue Mountain coffee that everyone loves from Jamaica.
Right.
His grave is right in front of that. There's also a life-size statue of him reclining in a chair, smoking a cigarette, looking out at his view, and that's outside on the back lawn. And so you really feel his presence as well. And they were such good friends, he and Fleming, that this is, even though it's not a Bondian location, it's so worth going there. It's something you have to do if you're going to see Goldeneye. You have to check out Firefly.
Interesting. I suppose that the like you say, there's a contrast between the two there. Like you go somewhere like Goldeneye and you know it's a high end resort and lots of people have been there over the years. But by the sounds of this one, you go to Firefly, it almost sounds like it's a bit of a time capsule where you're almost just literally stepping back in time almost when you walk through the door. Yeah, that's interesting. I like both of those angles. You know what I mean? It's nice to be able to see it exactly as it would have been when he was there. But then obviously the luxurious Goldeneye is another beast as well.
Right between the two locations also is we went to the courthouse where Fleming married Anne, where they got married, and that's a really neat little spot too. It's seen better days, but it was so neat to see that Jamaica was so important to Fleming. Not only did he write all the books there, but I mean, the place you choose to get married is an important spot, and it was right in Jamaica is where he chose that. So the island really is just, it informs so much of Fleming's study that we've done of him and his life story. It's such an important spot. So I definitely recommend, if you go to Firefly and Goldeneye, to check out the courthouse where he was married. It's a really neat location.
Beautiful. And you went to James Bond Beach.
James Bond Beach is just a beach near Goldeneye. And this is a spot that Fleming used to enjoy swimming at when he didn't want to just swim in his own private beach. Sometimes I guess he would travel around, and this was a very lovely spot that he liked to go to. At least that's what we're told.
If you get bored of your own private beach and you want to mix it up a little bit, you go down the street.
Yeah, there's plenty to choose from here. And what's neat about this place is, again, there's signs everywhere. Welcome to James Bond Beach. Welcome to James Bond Beach. You see it. You see that Bondian presence everywhere. Yeah. And then we walked past the front gates towards the beach, and there are two posters that you see right away, weather-beaten posters of "You Only Live Twice" and "Diamonds Are Forever," the original movie posters. And these, I don't know when they were put up, years and years ago, because they're all kind of turning white and crumbling away. But it's so neat to see those two posters right there.
Nice.
It's a funky little beach. There were about a dozen people swimming, young people drinking in the water. It's not like the classiest beach, but it's a good one to just, if you're in the mood to let your hair down, you've been traveling to Bond locations all day and need to cool down. It's a great spot to just sip a cocktail and float around for a little while. There's a bar, a 2-story bar at the beach, at James Bond Beach, called the Moonraker Bar.
Nice.
And they were playing some Jamaican reggae, and I looked at the menu, and they have a signature Bond cocktail that's made up of Blackwell rum and pineapple juice, orange juice, cranberry juice, and some lime. I had 2 of those after traveling all day, and it was perfect. It was such a nice way to unwind. And so James Bond Beach is definitely worth the $5 entry fee. You got to go there.
All right. If only to go to the Moonraker Inn by the sounds of it as well. That sounds like a lot of fun.
I was a little disappointed because I thought I wanted to see a big sign overhead above the place that said the Moonraker Bar.
Yeah.
So I looked at it and I was like, I don't see Moonraker Bar anywhere here. I was like, but I knew it was called the Moonraker Bar, but I didn't see that sign. As we were leaving that spot, over by a tree, covered over in shrubs, was the sign that says Moonraker Bar. So when you go to these spots, definitely look around. Not everything is right there for you to see. So and it seems like such a casual place. The people in Jamaica couldn't have been sweeter, couldn't have been more accommodating. They don't care if you're poking around looking for a sign. You're probably one of 24 people who tried to do that week. Yeah. So just go with the vibe. It's definitely worth seeing the James Bond Beach.
All right, it's a beautiful thing. And then last location on your list here is a place called the Jamaica Inn. So what was that? That's somewhere where Fleming used to go and drink. Is that right?
Yeah, this is in Ocho Rios, and it's a resort also, Jamaica Inn. Fleming used to come here with Winston Churchill and Roald Dahl.
Nice.
He would come here and drink, and I know every bar associated with Fleming always claims to be the one that invented the Vesper Martini. Well, we were told that at the Jamaica Inn is where the shaken not stirred concept came from.
Okay, interesting.
Because the Jamaican weather when Fleming would stay there would be so hot that they wanted a cocktail that was very refreshing. So by shaking it with ice, you really lower the temperature of that drink, and it makes it perfect for a warm Jamaican night. So we had Vespers there.
Nice.
And man, they were some of the best. I know Duke's in London is a great spot for a classic Vesper, but
Absolutely.
I think the Jamaica Inn was almost more authentic. The view couldn't be better. The colonial style atmosphere puts you right in that Fleming feeling. It's a lovely spot. It's right on the water. We actually met there another group of journalists who were on a similar Bond tour. They divided us up, we were told, into 2 groups of 8. So my group was me and 7 other people from around the world. There was a Canadian journalist and a German journalist and some Americans as well. The other group of 8 on the same tour were all British journalists. And what was cool is we all met up for the first time at Jamaica Inn to share this cocktail at night. Nice. It was like the last night there. And one of the British journalists came up to me. I don't have his name. I got to try to find that. And he came up and he said, "Are you the guy from James Bond Radio?"
No way.
Yeah, he knew it right away. And he said, "Tell Tom to take it easy on the British tabloid press. We're not all that bad." I think he writes for one.
Oh shit! I should keep my mouth shut, shouldn't I? Oh, nice. Oh, that's a shame you don't remember his name. That would be.
I know. I got it somewhere in my notes, but I don't. He was a great guy. I was really sad that we weren't on the same trip together. Although I think we would have done nothing but talk about Bond and JBR and different things. So in a way, it was almost better that he was kept away from me. We might have been annoying to everybody.
Yeah. All right. Well, if you're listening to this episode, drop me an email and I'll give you a call to say sorry. But there we go. Nice. So, what would you say then, man? I'm struggling to find the words, Matt, because that is such an amazing trip. It's if you'd have done a quarter of that, it would still be an amazing trip. But you've done so much. You've packed in so much there. What would you say was what was the one moment, the one place that you laid eyes on that was like, that is the best thing I've seen on this trip? Or is it impossible to even say that? I don't know.
It's definitely impossible. The Laughing Waters was spectacular. The color was so beautiful. Goldeneye was a once-in-a-lifetime experience. To sit at that Fleming's desk was probably the highlight of the whole trip. Yeah. But then I think about then the alligator farm and standing at James Bond Island with Donald and this live crocodile snapping up at me. Yeah. It doesn't get better than that. I mean, so those 3 spots, but then you also think of the helipad crumbling and how rare that is and what a weird little spot, one-of-a-kind spot that is. So there's too many to really pick that one. All I can say is it was 3 days of tours of Bond tourism. All of these locations were crammed into 3 days. So it was exhausting. At the end of each night, we would come back to the hotel and even I was like, I'm done. Like if they had threw out one more location, I might have said, I can't do it. Yeah. So, I mean, you're on and off these tour buses, get off, snap a million photos, interview whoever you can, jump back on the bus, go to the next location. People were tired by the end of each day, but cramming all these locations in for 3 days was intense. So I recommend when they do this in the future that you try to spend 5 days if you can to really take your time and soak up this experience, because there's nothing else like it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of pacing yourself a little bit. I can't, when you're cramming everything in every waking moment, you're traveling to the next place or doing this. It's sometimes tricky, isn't it, to really be able to appreciate a place. I kind of like to, have a beach day in between, and just sort of like, okay, I'm recharged the batteries, and then go out the next day and do all the sights and stuff. That's crazy, man. So the tourist board are putting it together as an actual sort of like package trip that you can book onto and go and do all this stuff. So it's open to, or it will be open to everybody, I should say, once, I'm guessing, all the stuff in the world kind of clears itself up at the moment.
Yeah, once travel is back to normal or more normal, and once the world kind of wakes up again, this is what they want to do. They wanted suggestions from the journalists at the end of the trip. What did you enjoy seeing? What could you do without? What were your favorite things? How many days do you think this is worth? What were the hotels like? So they were getting our feedback so that they know how to package the whole thing. All I can say is I don't know what the price point is going to be on it, but there's nothing more worthwhile. I know Piz Gloria is of course a Bond mecca that everyone loves to go to, but Jamaica is just so much more than I expected it to be. It was, you don't have to search hard to find amazing locations. We could have done half the ones that we did, and it still would have been an incredible trip.
Yeah,
so whatever it costs, it's worth it.
There are some things in life that are worth, it might be expensive, but they are worth dropping the cash on. Like you say, go to visit James Bond Island in Thailand or Peace Gloria. Those things are definitely like up there as almost like religious moments. And Goldeneye, I guess, and Jamaica in general is probably the last sort of major center of Bond that I've not done yet. So I can't wait to get involved in that, man. Well, let me ask you this. So in when it comes to travel and especially Jamaica, a lot of people are nervous about Jamaica in terms of safety. How do you find that while you were there? Because I've seen a lot of resorts where they say don't leave the resort and all that kind of stuff, or make sure you have security with you. How did that feel?
It felt fine for us on my group of 8 journalists, mostly because we didn't interact with too many other people other than the people who worked at each of those locations, at the alligator farm or the underground caves. So we didn't come in contact with that many people. So I felt perfectly safe. The only issue that I'll bring up is the 8 British journalists who were kind of shadowing us on their own tour. Like we would go out to one location on one day, they would do that location the next day, and then we'd switch off. So they spent a little bit of time down in some of the other locations in the southern part of Jamaica. And that was a little tricky. One of them, we were told, had a necklace ripped off her neck while she was walking. Yeah. Somebody ran up to her, grabbed the necklace, pulled it off, and it really shook her up, we were told. And that's understandable. So yeah, there are some locations there that you might want to just be generally aware of your surroundings, keep a good eye around you, and maybe not wear too much that too many expensive little things, or carry your bag kind of close to you. But other than that one instance, it felt perfectly fine, especially in the north part of the island where we're told it was considerably safer. And I think that things get a little riskier down in the southern area where where the jump up club is, let's say. I would love to go there, but maybe maybe just watch yourself when you're down that part of it. I'll admit to one goofy thing I did while I was there. I haven't told this to literally anybody, but I wanted to, I love doing those photo comparisons of what the shot looked like there and what the shot looked like in the film. So I actually brought with me to Jamaica a giant rubber tarantula to recreate the Dr. No scene, and put it on my shoulder. And I was going to do a side by side of Connery with the spider on him and me with the spider on me. And I did it. I shot the exact perfect angle, and I put them side by side. And he looked so magnetic. He looked so powerful. and it made me look so awful compared to like nobody would live up to him. So those photos were instantly deleted. But if you're looking pretty good, maybe take a spider with you.
Yeah, you're going up against Sean Connery in his absolute prime there, dude. So I'm sure we all of us would be feeling the same in that boat. Yeah, for sure.
But it's a location that inspires that kind of geekiness. So if you love Bond, if you love travel, you're not going to find a better spot to go to than Jamaica.
Beautiful stuff, dude. Well, I am absolutely green with envy today because that is an ultimate trip of a lifetime. I thought we did pretty well with our Peace Gloria adventures last year, but that one, man, dude, there's just too many to keep track of. It's like classic location after classic location. And I do love those things as well. Like you say, that random little helipad that's, it's not something you're going to recognize from a film, but it was a key part of the whole shooting of the film, just that little thing, that little piece that isn't your typical kind of tourist spot, but it's a key piece of the film itself,
Yeah, it's a wonderful location. It's so worth it.
All right, man. Well, thank you for joining me, man, and taking us all through the trip. I've thoroughly enjoyed myself today, man. It's going to be one of these things. This is a huge bucket list thing for me, man. So I'm going to have to make this trip and try and replicate your trip as much as I possibly can. And
we'll have to let listeners know if I hear of anything. If I hear back from the PR company or the tourist board about when this is going to happen, what the timeline is for them. I think it's going to be sooner rather than later. The virus stuff has really thrown a curve to everybody, but the second that I hear any good news about it, I'll let JBR know. You guys can start booking your trips right away.
Beautiful. All right. Sounds good to me, man. Thank you very much. We can compare notes afterwards and see if we can compare our camera angle shots and all that stuff. But good stuff. Well, thanks, Matt. I thoroughly enjoyed myself today. I will hook up with you again soon, no doubt. Our other man in LA, I should say. And we will no doubt be chatting soon when No Time to Die comes out, and we can get your thoughts on that at some point.
Sounds great.
All right, man. Take care.
Take it easy, Tom.
Hope you enjoyed the show. Good night.